You are tuned in to episode 103. Yes, I said it. Episode 103 of the Goodfellas podcast. It's your boy G5 Jeff TV, aka G5, aka 5, aka the Guru. Riding solo today. Big shout out to the team, though. VP Shane, aka Ice Cold Shane. Big shout out to him. Big shout out to Boxing First Vlog, aka the General, aka Blunt, aka Blunt Bayless, aka Mr. 1K. Know what I'm saying? But your boy flying solo today. Shane might jump up in here. He might not. But y'all got to deal with me today. Y'all got to deal with this film study. Big fight coming up this weekend. Artur Beterbiev versus Joe Smith Jr. Unification at 175 pounds. Top rank doing anything. Top rank definitely doing anything. But what we're going to do, we're going to wait for a couple people come up in here. And then we're going to get this party started. But when you come in the door, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit that share button when you come on in. And definitely check the website out, g5jeftv.com. We got articles up right now. We're revamping the website. Season 3 of the Fantasy League is coming in short order. We basically had some issues with basically the sponsor for it. It's basically some specific things that we wanted and we couldn't get it. You know what I'm saying? Big shout out to VP Shane. What's going on, brother?
Good, man. What's up?
Ain't nothing, man. We're gonna get into this film study today. Beterbiev, Joe Smith, big fight weekend. They just dropped the undercard
Who's on it?
Yesterday.
Nova's on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna show it to you right now. Big shout out to Adrian in the building. Say what's up. Big shout out to you, man. Got family in the building. Big shout out to you. So I'm surprised you haven't seen it yet, but I'm gonna show it to you now.
I haven't been on social media. I haven't been on social media today.
Okay. Fair enough.
So I've been doing what I've been doing for the last few days, what I've been telling you about.
Got you. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to show the actual card for Beterbiev and Smith this weekend, and we'll run it down live, and you let me know what you think. And this would be kind of cool because this will be your first time actually seeing it. So this would be cool. Let's see. All right. Let's share that. In a second. Get this ad off of here.
I think there's an X below it. Below it.
Oh, I got you.
Not there. There, to your right.
That's to for the
to your right.
Oh,
below that.
I don't see it.
Directly below that.
Oh, I got you. It's just moved it down the bottom. I'm just gonna let it run. I'm gonna let it run real quick. Joint don't want to cooperate.
Free ads.
Yeah, garbage.
Jesus Christ, they're persistent. I can see it anyway.
All right, so let me see.
I'm trying my best. Abraham Nova.
So we got Abraham Nova versus Robisi Ramirez.
Is this a pay-per-view?
For us, no, it's not pay-per-view.
Well, I mean, it's a crap undercard, but at least, I mean, it's free, so
yeah. So we got obviously Beterbiev versus Joe Smith. I like the co-main though, Abraham Nova versus Robisi Ramirez. That's a real good fight. And pretty much all of the rest of these.
I mean, a good fight could potentially be that Joel Tucker versus Andre Smith. That could be a good fight.
Yeah, DeAndre Smith. That's a sneaky good fight.
That could potentially be a good fight. Oh wow, you got Floyd Diaz versus Daniel, whoever that is, 2-4-0 undefeated fighters.
I'm gonna try this last name. Platinovsky.
That's pretty good.
I think I got it. Yeah. I think I got it.
Platinovsky.
Yeah. So and then basically all the rest of these is basically like filler fights.
Yeah, I mean it's not a great undercard, but it's not a great undercard, but who could they have put on it?
Yeah, it's you know what? I'm not even surprised because they just had the Berlanga fight last week and they had to fill that one.
Who could they have put in it?
I don't know. The only other person I can think of is probably
I mean, what is it? Who's Brandon Lee with?
he's PBC.
What
So
about Xander Zayas?
Xander is with them, but they the thing about Xander, I think he was injured. Not injured, I think
Um,
he was sick.
what about my other dude, heavyweight boy, Jared Anderson?
I haven't heard anything from Jared Anderson. That's
I
that's
mean, he could have been someone put on it. I mean, I wouldn't have minded Jared Anderson versus like a Carlos Takam or something.
yeah, that'd have been a good one. To be honest with you, they probably could have if it was a free card, they probably could have made that a main event by itself.
Because I'm pretty sure isn't Carlos Takam still in some sort still associated with Top Rank? I mean, I
Yeah, I
remember.
don't know who Takam is. I don't know who Takam is
I
actually
mean, I
affiliated
remember
with.
he had a few fights on Top Rank's card. You know, his last fight was on ESPN. So I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
I just think that's a good little step up fight for Jared Anderson.
Yeah, I think that's a real good. I think that's a real good step up fight. To be honest with you, even though he just got knocked out, this would be a good time. Throw Jared Anderson up against Trevor Bryan. Throw him up against Trevor Bryan.
I mean, it's a bit close. It's a bit close to a knockout. I would probably. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I don't know who there is out there, to be honest.
Yeah, big shout out to T Finney, man. Big shout out to you, bro. Says salute to you, bro.
What do you think about the fight? The main event.
Man, I'm gonna have to answer your question with a question. I had somebody. I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and I'm gonna ask you the question that they asked me. When you're dealing with a guy like Beterbiev, and you're the opponent, you have cracks too. Should your strategy be to try to get them out of there, throw all your eggs in one basket, and try to go for it early, or do you try to prolong it as long as possible against a guy that got all-time hands like Artur
Um,
Beterbiev?
with someone like Joe Smith, I would fight fire with fire because I think Joe Smith has power himself. If you were feather fisted, not saying that Jesse Hart's feather fisted, by the way, but if you're not a known puncher like a Jesse Hart or like a person like a who else at that weight class?
Marcus Brown.
Marcus Brown, someone who's known for getting knockouts or body jack. I wouldn't go and try fight fire with fire in terms of just landing my heavy shots. But with Joe Smith's got crack. So Joe Smith, if I'm Joe Smith, I'm going to look to land my power shots and use that as a deterrent to stop Beterbiev from landing. Because not only does Joe Smith have great power, but Joe Smith's got a great chin. I don't think he's ever been down in his career, or he's definitely never been knocked out in his career. So someone like Joe Smith will be looking to land power punches and wear Beterbiev down, get him walking onto shots.
It's a difficult question because Joe Smith he don't really use his feet and he's not known for his feet. He really doesn't have the attributes to really see the benefits. Yeah, see the benefits of stretching this fight out anyway. Yeah. So I think that I think he got like a 5-round window. I think he has a 5-round window.
I disagree. I think both of them have as long as they want because I think they both have shown on occasion to carry punch power lead. And
it's not about that.
Vulnerabilities in terms of chin.
Well, it's not
chin. Sorry, in terms of getting hit. Sorry.
Yeah, because both of them are gonna be right there. That's why I'm saying that their gap is about a good 5 rounds before you really start seeing physical effects. Because that's what happened in the Volzdik fight.
But Joe Smith cracks harder than Volzdik.
Absolutely. I agree.
And to me, I feel like Joe Smith has the ability to take some stuff out of Beterbiev as well. You know, it's gonna remind me a lot like Callum Johnson versus Beterbiev. Like when Callum Johnson fought Beterbiev, Callum Johnson said, "It's my power versus your power." And yes, he got knocked out in 3 rounds, but he was able to knock Beterbiev down in the second round. Do you see my point?
Yeah,
So
you
it,
know, the
it,
thing that's funny,
it's
bro.
power versus power.
I have I actually have I got a fight queued up that I'm gonna run in a minute that reminds me of, I think, the approach that Joe Smith needs to take in this fight. Is an old school fight, but you'll appreciate it when I show it though. I think with me personally, I don't think anybody at 175 is gonna last 8 rounds with Beterbiev if they're not moving. Like it's no, like it's to me, I'm like it's no
But
way.
does Joe Smith need to last 8 rounds? Can he just knock him out in 6 rounds? Because Joe Smith's got the power to knock anybody out at that weight class,
But
especially
even
if he lands.
but even in your example, you still said 6. It's
Yeah,
still a
I'm
first
saying.
half fight. Yeah,
I'm
I
that's
don't.
what I'm saying. Does Joe
Yeah,
Smith need to last
he
that long? He
can.
might not
He
need to last that long.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like it's still I would say 6 rounds or less, under 6. To be honest with you, for either guy, because I don't think Beterbiev he can't afford to be taking Joe Smith shots long term either.
Yeah, that's my point.
So
That's my
I
point.
it's really it's an interesting fight
M-
to
My, my,
really
my,
break down.
my problem with this fight is, and I remember when I watched the Vlasov fight, when the fight gets real close, and they start slugging out in the pocket, Joe Smith doesn't tend to get the same level of extension and torque on his punches. And it starts to get a bit slappy, especially when it's up close range, real up and close. Mid range is good, long range is good. But close range, where someone's under you and in your chest, he doesn't land the shots that he would want to land. But
Uh,
Beterbiev generates power here and all the way out. So that's the problem. When Beterbiev's underneath his chest and Joe Smith sits in the pocket and tries to trade like he normally does, that's the problem. Because the shots you land ain't gonna have the effects on Beterbiev as much as the shots he lands on you.
yeah, yeah. I also think that another thing with Joe Smith is not only the distance in which he doesn't get the leverage on his shots. When it gets late in fights, his leverage is not the same on his shots. More so slapping than anything
But
else.
in the Jesse Hart fight, it wasn't like that.
Yeah, but that's Jesse Hart didn't give him any pushback to push his gas tank though. So he was pretty much fresh that whole fight. If we talking late action against Beterbiev, he is not going to be the same dude in round 7 or 8 than he was in round 1. Um, hold on, Burt Wood in the building. Big shout out to my OG Burt Wood. He said from the source quote, Donaire confessed that was the hardest punch I ever been hit with. First round, I don't remember being knocked down. Said Donaire of a new G5. The punch looked like an 8-inch punch. Bro, it was shot was clean. It was about as clean as you can get. Max leverage on it. I'm not surprised that he didn't remember it. I wouldn't have remembered it either if I'd have got cracked with that. T. Finney said, I remember when Beterbiev fought Brown, it was a bloodbath.
Facts.
Yeah, it was a serious bloodbath for sure. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually show the fight when I think of Beterbiev and Joe Smith, and I think of like the strategy that Joe Smith probably needs to take in this fight. There's another, and we gonna go way back, and let's just do it right now.
What fight are you showing? Joe Smith fight or Beterbiev fight?
Neither one of them. We gonna go back. We gonna go back. We are gonna go back. Hold on a second,
The
bro.
175 fight.
A little bit under that, but you gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. Hold on.
I have a feeling I know what you're talking about right now. Nigel Benn,
Nah, you see it?
Joe McClellan, Julian Jackson. Okay.
Yes. So basically, the reason I'm even showing this is because, and you'll see it in a second. Julian Jackson had like, I mean, all time, all
Power.
world type power. Like it was insane. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, let me put my little disclaimer up real quick. Here we go. So if you look at Julian Jackson, right? Now he's in his prime in this fight, so this is 160. And just check the record. Like if you never watched Julian Jackson fight before ever, all you got to do is look at the record and you just know. Like that, you just know. Like, you know what I'm saying? You 46-1 with 43 knockouts, you just know that it's power. So the reason I'm even showing this is because you got to look at McClellan and the approach that he took in the jump.
I feel like it's a little bit different in this fight, though. I'll tell you why I feel like it's a little bit different. Because McClellan is he's got natural boxing instinct. I don't think about that when I see Joe Smith Jr.
Well, yeah, I mean, McClellan was a tactician, but if you actually look, it's mainly for the approach.
Are we watching the whole fight?
I'm not gonna do the whole thing because actually the fight didn't last that long.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it didn't last that long, but the thing is, I just want people to look at McClellan's approach. He has all the technical skill in the world, but he came in and was like, you know, we gonna throw hands at it. He didn't fight like he was gonna go 12. But you see how Julian Jackson's coming.
Mm-hmm.
Good right hand. But you see everything is power though. Everything, no filling out. Everything is power. The jabs is power shots.
In terms of actual intent, he's coming with calculated pressure.
Mm-hmm. And you seen he was operating everything off the jab, and that's what a lot of what Joe Smith
it's
does.
very similar to what Tyson Fury done when he was fighting Wilder, in the sense that you got the power puncher in Wilder, and I'm just gonna come forward and go aggressive.
Yeah, you're gonna have to deal. You're gonna have to deal with this. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to deal with it. But you see, I think Joe Smith is going to have to take this approach.
The problem is, I think early in this fight, you can clearly see McClellan found a safe range.
Correct.
You see my point?
Correct.
Joe Smith's going to have to find a safe range.
What do you think that safe range is, in your opinion?
All the way out.
So when you say all the way out, let's go. So would you consider this all the way out where McClellan is right now?
What McClellan's doing is all the way up. So what he's doing is he's bouncing. So imagine there's a string, and there's a string that gets maximum extension, which is the distance where they're both at their maximum reach.
Correct.
If you look at what McClellan's doing is he's starting all of his attacks with a jab. So that's the first thing he's starting his attacks with the jab. And then another thing he's doing is he's forcing Julian Jackson to lead with power punches.
Right.
The reason why you're forcing him to lead with power punches is because every time he crosses this line, you're gonna meet him with something heavy, and you're gonna load up on a shot. Because Julian Jackson isn't the greatest defensively, and neither is Beterbiev, their head's going to be straight down the middle. So even if I throw shots straight down the middle, even if it's bam, bam, even if I throw shots straight down the middle, you're going to be walking into it. You're going to meet resistance every single time. So if you look at it, I'm fighting a long-range power fight. You know, a bit like what Tommy Hearns would do, but coming forward. So the moment he takes a step forward, I'm a throw a punch. The moment he takes another step forward, I'm gonna take a step back and throw a punch. You're taking steps forward and back. It's never 3 steps back. It's never 3 steps forward. You see my
Right.
point? It's either 2 steps
Yeah.
back, 1 step forward, 2 step forward, 1 step back.
The-
You're working on that line that's just at the peak of all the way out as in outer range and just about in range.
yeah.
That's the
No.
range you want to be working at.
Now, I guess to get even more specific than that, for Joe Smith out of range would probably be the arm length of his jab,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah,
probably plus another half step. That I would consider that completely
all the
out.
way out. Yeah.
Yeah,
And because he's
completely
got
out.
longer arms than Beterbiev, he can trust that. He can trust that distance. You see what you just said? Okay, my jab, half a step forward, that's me. In half a step out, I'm all the way out.
I'm all the
So
way out.
that
Right.
you
So
can trust that
basically,
gauge. That's a
yeah,
safe
half a
gauge.
step. Yeah, your full extension of your jab, half step in your mid range, half step out, you're completely out. But you can basically close that gap either way, basically with a full step. You know what I'm saying? So both guys are good. And the thing is, neither guy is a counterpuncher, which I'm that's a an
What did you
important
say? I
thing.
didn't hear. Who's a counter puncher?
I said neither one of them counterpunches really.
Not really.
Um,
No.
Yeah, so I'm kind of
What
curious to see if either one of them will be willing to do that in this fight
what
too.
what you might see though? What you might see is because I think they're both gonna feel each other's power pretty early. What you might see is Beterbiev keep the high guard up for long periods of time in this fight. So he's not gonna really be throwing power punches early. I don't think. He's
Right,
only gonna be he's gonna only throw punches when he feels safe as well. You know,
right,
the thing that was different with Callum Johnson is Callum Johnson's a fighter. He's just throwing. He's gonna
right,
start the fight and throw as much punches as I want, and all of them are gonna be heavy. If it lands, you're getting knocked out. If it don't land, I'm losing. That's how he fights. Joe Smith Jr. is a little bit methodical, so he's
yeah,
not gonna be as reckless. But you look, Alida Alvarez was another power puncher who Joe Smith fought. Alida Alvarez had a big power.
yeah,
We saw what he done to uh Kovalev in the
yeah,
first Kovalev fight. What he was able to do with Alida Alvarez was keep straight shots pumping. Jab, right hand, jab, right hand, jab, right hand. What Beterbiev does a very good job at is deflecting shots with his gloves. So this is something that I'm pretty sure. This is something that I always talk about Mark Ramsey. This is something that Mark Ramsey does a lot. So when you're on the inside and you got your high guard up, a lot of people go like this: parry, parry. If you look at what's it called? Beterbiev, he doesn't really move his head a lot like Mike Tyson. What you see him do is he might move, but he'll parry shots like that on the outside. So he almost reverses it. That's what a lot of or you see them turn their glove in. So
right,
instead of having to get out of the way, they just turn their glove in. So instead of blocking a shot like this and parrying it like that, you'll see Mark Ramsey teaches dudes to turn his glove in and almost smother the punches that's coming in.
right.
So the shots go directly through the middle. They can just turn in over the top, turn in over the top. Everything's over the top. If you look at when Beterbiev catches punches, he rarely catches punches like how you would normally catch a punch on the inside. And that's a Mark Ramsey thing because I see Oscar Rivas do the same thing. So
Yeah, yeah.
um
Um, let me get hold on. T. Finney said, when Joe Smith and Jesse Hart fought, I was debating to go to that fight or Clarissa Shields fight, but I ran with the Shields fight. They were both in New Jersey, one on Friday and one on Saturday. Yeah, actually Boots was the co-main on that Clarissa Shields card. And to be honest with you, that was probably the first time media people were saying that he was that Boots was kind of like had the Roy Jones type skill set. But I do remember that. Unfortunately, I had some bad inside information on the Jesse Hart fight. So, it was what it was. Burt Wood, G5, who was Stephen Fulton's promoter. versus Inui's promoter. I
I
read,
ended Fulton with Al Heyman.
Fulton is with Al Bert. He said, I read fight would not happen in 122 because promoters don't work with each other. Now, I don't think so. Inui is Bert, I know where you're going with this. So basically, Cool Boy Steph is PBC. Inui, you see him mainly on Top Rank.
Right.
So I get it. Can the fight happen? Yeah, I think it can happen. But because it's the lower weight classes, if it was a higher weight class, you're probably talking more money talk. But with these two, I think they can make enough money to basically make it
I,
happen.
I think with Fulton hasn't turned into a superstar, so it Al Heyman doesn't treat him like such. You know, Al Heyman knows who to treat how. Like, look how he treats the Charlo twins, Errol Spence and Wilder, and fighters of that caliber. Tank Davis, he treats them with a certain, with a certain regard. We would know whether he sees Fulton as a superstar or not, whether he gives Fulton the MJ fight or not. Because if he doesn't fight Ahmed Aliyev, then it's kind of pointless, isn't it?
Yeah,
He's just gonna
yeah,
stay on PBC the whole way through.
yeah, yeah. So what I actually want to show now is I want to get Beterbiev versus Volzdik going. Um, the clip is the actual video was from Unreal Boxing. Big shout out to Unreal
I
Boxing.
thought we was gonna what's it called? Use
Mhm.
a Callum Smith drink, but fair enough. I mean Callum Johnson.
Actually, do I have that on here?
If you don't because it's fine. But Callum
No,
Johnson
I
to me, I
actually
think is
do.
more
I actually
similar.
do. I actually do. So we're gonna look at Beterbiev versus Callum Johnson, and this video is by Predator TV. So we're gonna cue that up right now. Give me just a second. And again, videos for commentary, which is allowed under the Fair Use Act, do not come for us. Do not come for us. Give me just a second. Yeah, that was the second one. We on the same page though. I had that one queued up too. Um,
If you look how Callum Johnson came out in this fight, now I don't expect Joe Smith to be like this, but I expect him to be. I still expect him to be aggressive. I want to see Joe Smith be aggressive. Callum Johnson was a bit reckless. There's a difference between being reckless and aggressive.
there's a huge difference between reckless and aggressive. But if you notice Callum Johnson, he's not moving backwards.
He literally came for this fight to land big shots.
Right.
And Beterbiev said he knew he had to get rid of him early because he just felt the power and was like, you could just see that Callum Johnson is just looking to load up on a punch.
Yeah.
But the thing is with Callum Johnson in this fight, Callum Johnson is actually trying to be a front foot counter puncher. Like he tries to counter a lot in this fight as well. He actually lands a counter shot which drops Beterbiev.
And Callum Johnson, what he was doing a lot was throwing that right hook over the top and trying to get low.
Yeah.
And kind of creep inside too.
You see that counter left hand there?
Them hooks. Yeah, them counter hooks was landing.
That's something
definitely landing.
That's something that Beterbiev.
That's something Joe Smith can do.
You could clearly see Beterbiev. Callum Smith got Beterbiev's respect so early. When do you ever see Beterbiev backpedaling to the ropes? Yeah. This is what Joe Smith has to do: get Beterbiev out of his comfort zone by landing big shots early. You don't have to be reckless; just be aggressive. The moment you give up ground like Marcus Brown did, you're bound to lose.
Yeah, and Beterbiev's feet is not bad for a power puncher. It's hard for him to punch off the back foot. His feet is not actually bad. Now, but you can see he's out of his character.
What you can clearly see is this dude is a power puncher going backwards and forwards because Callum Johnson is getting lit up. But at the same time, he's still coming forward, and Beterbiev's having to work at a range and at a pace that he doesn't really want to. You know, he's having to defend, go backwards, go forward. This is something that he doesn't want to do, and you could clearly see Callum Johnson got Beterbiev's respect real early. And I say, if there's anything Joe Smith has to do in this fight, he has to do what Callum Johnson done, and that's get his respect. Do not let this dude back you up to the ropes and dictate the pace of this fight. The moment you do that, you're gonna get knocked out because this dude throws punches that wear you down. That's just collateral damage. When you're playing that fight with Beterbiev, you're gonna pay the maximum price. But in the next round, he gets the get back though.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like with Beterbiev, you can tell his IQ is up there as well because he basically evaluated what was going on, and you can see him making the adjustments throughout this first round. Beterbiev has more actual IQ attributes than what he's given credit for because he has the knockouts.
But you think about it, this dude's had over 400 amateur fights. So
yeah,
anybody with that level of amateur fights, he's a 2-time Olympian. You're gonna have a certain level of pedigree. I think he's like a 4-time Russian champion, European champion. Like this guy's been around. He beat Usyk in the amateurs. He beat Volzik in the amateurs. He beat Kovalev in the amateurs. You know, this dude's been there. He's been in the. He beat Michael Hunter in the amateurs. Yeah, he's been there. So,
and the thing is, and that's a compact shot right there. Everybody can't land that shot.
That's what I'm saying. At close range, Joe Smith is in serious trouble because Joe Smith doesn't have the punch power. And he doesn't get the same leverage on his punches as Beterbiev does. That's what I'm saying, all the way out, but long-range power punches. And just keep them coming. Long-range hooks, long-range straight right hands, power jabs. Just keep them coming, being active.
And another thing that Beterbiev does well is if he's working with the left hand, that right hand is usually home. Yeah, and that goes back to that pedigree. And you see that lead right hand is landing for Callum Johnson.
That's what I'm saying. Joe Smith has to do this. You see, if Joe Smith just sits up on the ropes and just tries to use movement and give Beterbiev too much respect, he's just going to pick you off and knock you out. You got to be busy.
Yeah, so this is basically
that right hand again.
Right hand over the top. Again. Yeah.
But you can tell these punches have sting on. This dude's turned red.
Yeah, and that's why I said this is about a 5-6 round gap. 5-6 round gap against Beterbiev for either guy. 5-6 round gap.
Watch this. This is where it comes. I think this is where it is. This is where the knockdown is for Beterbiev. You know, again, he's playing with that range. I think this is where it is.
And you see he's responded with multiple shots too.
Yeah. But the thing with Callum Johnson is Callum Johnson's always had power.
Yeah. And see, that's
left hook come again. Shot. I told you that check left hook again.
Yeah.
Those hooks at long range. Now, if I'm Joe Smith, I wouldn't want to be trading there. But at long range, throw left hooks, right hands, straight. Just keep them powerful. Make your Beterbiev feel your power early.
Hold on for real quick before I restart this, right? Let me explain this. Callum Johnson got a knockdown in that exchange. That's actually where he didn't want to be. That was straight danger zone where he was. He just was fortunate enough to land his hook first. Joe Smith don't want to be there. He wants to be further out trying to land that shot versus being up close and tight like that. I had to get that out the way. Let's go.
No, that's a fact. You can land those shots against Beterbiev. You just have to be out. You don't want to.
You just got to be out. Right. Facts.
Because if you can see, Callum Johnson is getting whilst he's landed a few, he's getting hit with everything and the kitchen sink. And when he finally does get knocked out, he gets knocked out after literally nothing left in the tank. Like he's absolutely done. Because Beterbiev hits you with shots that take. It's like a life bar. You know when you play in Mortal Kombat, every hit that he lands just takes part of your life away from you.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know if this lasts I don't know if this lasts 6-7 rounds. I'd be
I
surprised if it
can't
lasts
see.
6-7 rounds.
But then we saw Joe Smith get hurt in the Bivol fight. You know, in the last round of the Bivol fight.
Yeah, I think both guys, we've seen them hurt, you know, before, and it's just one of those. It's just going to be one of those fights. Like, can Joe Smith get home without putting himself in true danger? And we talking in terms of distance. Can he get his punches home? Like, you look at this knockdown, like it's short and it was compact, but basically they were trading hooks. And Callum Smith is a hooker. We know Beterbiev can crack, but it's still the rule's still the same. You don't want to hook with a hooker because the hooker can luck up and land something like that. But you can tell Beterbiev has so much power. Even when he got knocked down with the shot, you see Callum Johnson didn't run in and try to go for the kill.
Yeah.
Some shots was, Beterbiev shots is still heavy. Beterbiev's a good fighter, man. He's a good fighter, man. Like, he got knocked down.
I think this is the round he gets. I think this is the round he gets the knockout.
Yeah, but you can tell his face looked like he'd been in a 12-round war and it's only round 3.
Literally.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy.
One thing I do think I think you're 100% right. Beterbiev does not get the credit for the footwork that he does have.
He got real good footwork. And the thing is, what he does is he switches things up. You know what I'm saying? Like, sometimes he'll smother the shots. Sometimes he'll punch with you. Sometimes he'll kind of just try to move out.
And him being all the way in against any fighter is danger because he can generate power from ridiculous distances.
You see that leaping right hand he just threw? That's another shot that's in his arsenal as well. And I'm talking about Beterbiev.
He's generating so much power in those clinches.
Yeah. See, Callum Johnson here, he's basically on the edge of being out.
No, he's not. No more.
No. This
is where Joe Smith can't afford to be. He can't afford to be going backwards in this fight.
Yeah. And for anybody to question whether Beterbiev got some wheels, he got wheels, man. He got feet. He's not stationary, which is rare for a power puncher, though.
Yeah, facts.
Rare. That's what makes him a rare breed. And see, now Callum Johnson is.
Did you see those?
Yeah, those triple hooks. Yeah, them triple hooks to the body.
At close range, Joe Smith does not want to be there. He does not want to be there.
And if anybody thinks like, oh, well, Joe Smith should be on the inside so he can smother the shots, you can't really smother Beterbiev shots.
No, you can't. Because he generates power at ridiculous range.
You see you seen that combo right there?
Yeah.
Everything is short and compact.
Look how close he was landing that combination that Jeff's talking about. He does not have to be close or far, have enough distance to generate he's all the way there.
Yeah, and the thing about Callum Johnson in this fight is he tried to establish some, the line in the sand, but you got to be smart with that as well. Like, you can't just turn it into an all-out war. You can't do that.
Well, not with someone that cracks this hard.
Yeah,
everything he hits with is power.
Yeah, everything is power.
You can.
His face is a mess.
It's the third round, and this dude is just.
Yeah, his face is a mess.
And look at the physical exchange. Look at his physical strength.
Look at the body shots.
Look at that. This is my point. This is where you can't be with Beterbiev. In the clinches, this guy is probably the best fighter in the sport in clinches. Bro, he generates power from ridiculous ranges.
And let me get this out the way. Like, Beterbiev, he actually gave Callum Johnson more opportunities than what he usually does because he knew he had to get him up out of there.
Yeah, he knew it because Callum Johnson's got power.
But you see a little bit of everything in this fight from Beterbiev. You see the punch variety. You see a lot of different things from Beterbiev. So I don't want people to think Beterbiev is just a power guy and just that's it. His face, he did not hit the pub after this fight. I'll tell you that much.
We're in round 4.
For that, check the movement of Beterbiev though. His side to side movement is good, but you see the little slight steps, slight steps back that takes him out of range.
Yep. And then he's still, look how he's generating power from the ranges that he's at. I'm telling you, this dude is just, there's certain ranges you can't fight this dude at.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact.
The knockout is brutal as well, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, there's multiple ways that he's getting Callum Johnson out of the way. He's throwing with him, tying him up, pushing him back, clinching and digging to the body. These are the ways that you handle a guy that's overly aggressive.
Facts.
And you can, and Beterbiev has good posture. When he's going to throw the jab, you see the right hand is always home.
And the thing is, with Joe Smith, what he also needs to understand is, even when he backs up Beterbiev, but he's got to force Beterbiev to take steps forward. Because if you take that step forward, he'll just walk you onto a backhand, just like he just done there. And I didn't even know that was going to happen, but he just done it. He'll walk you onto punches.
Which, if you're not a counter puncher, if you set in traps, that's equivalent to counter shots anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Look at that half step across just to offset the jab.
But you see he's getting his 2s and 3s off and he's taking a walk. And not extensive movement where it's just too much. Little 1-2 steps. And if you notice, Beterbiev's not lazy defensively neither. Like, he don't mind bending at the waist, getting underneath, even if he feel like he got to tie up. See, that's a beautiful shot. That's a beautiful shot.
That's a temple shot.
That's a beautiful shot.
That's what I'm saying. When you walk somebody onto a punch, you know, that you can clearly see it's not even the fact that that shot was too much.
Yeah,
he's just been taking too much punishment.
And he was drunk. He was drunk. So that's I mean, Beterbiev next level with it. He's next level with it. Joe Smith got a lot on his hands.
Was Ross Abner in the corner for this fight?
I think so.
No, I didn't see. I don't see him. Maybe he was. I can't see him. There he is. There's Ross Abner right there.
Yeah. But see, that's what I'm saying. Like, Beterbiev is next level with it. Definitely next level. It's going to take a lot for Joe Smith to get this dub. Look in the comments real quick. Thomas Morris in the building. Big shout out to you. He said Smith 7th round KO. I would say 7 may be the longest. If it goes beyond 7, I'm surprised.
He's got the power for it. He
definitely got the power for it.
He just has to be very it has to be calculated aggression, but aggression nonetheless. You know, you can't be passive in this fight at all. You know, you have to go in there with the intentions to land power punches. Yes, have respect. And Jeff, I said this before, and I'm gonna say it because now I have time to say it and explain myself. The boxing ring is just like your house. In your house, you have to earn the right to leave your house or earn the right for privileges. You know, privilege might be to watch TV, to stay up late, to go out and play with your friends. That's a privilege. A privilege in that boxing ring is a power punch. You have to earn the right to land power punches in boxing. And there's 3 ways you earn rights for privileges, just like 3 ways you earn right for privileges in your house. Clean, keep clean, have respect, and always, 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 when you're throwing power punches, you have to know that your opponent can throw power punches back. That's all it is, bro. You have to have respect for what's coming back at you. So just like if you're in your house, bro, if you never cleaned your room, you know you don't have no privileges. If this playing field isn't clean, therefore I ain't throwing no power punches. What I mean by a clean playing field is you gotta make sure, like what Beterbiev done when he was knocking out, the ranges are safe. That's what I mean by clean. You can't be fighting at a range where the it's in your opponent's favor. You can't
Yeah.
keep it clean. Another thing that you have to do to get a privilege in your house is do your homework. Just like in a boxing ring, you have to do your homework on your opponent. You have to know where's safe and where is not safe. What punches are dangerous and what punches aren't dangerous. Where can they hurt me and where can I hurt them? Do your homework and always have respect. You have to have respect for what your opponent's throwing. Those are the ways you earn the right to throw power punches. You can't throw power punches without earning it. You have to earn the right to throw power punches. I see certain fighters just go out there and just throw power punches. You have to earn that. Power punches is a privilege. It's a privilege.
My God, Toshi, this is the fight of the year. It definitely has the
I
potential to
mean,
be.
we've seen some great fights this year.
Yes, yeah, it has the ingredients to be a firefight. To be
What
honest with you,
fights have
Toshi,
we seen already
fighter.
this year that's been amazing this year?
To be
We were
honest
talking
with you,
about a fight the other day. I can't remember what you were saying, which was fight of the year.
um,
Craig Richards,
Craig
what's it called?
Richards.
Buatsi was a good fight.
Yeah,
That
Richards
was
and
a good
Buatsi
fight.
was a good fight.
No, but that wasn't the fight I was talking about though. There was a world title fight that was a good fight. I can't remember.
Charlo Castano.
That was a great performance. I'm trying to. That was a great performance. That's my performance of the year, definitely. That's my performance of the year. I can't really recall a great fight. I can't. There was
To
a
be
great.
honest, we've had a lot of great matchups, but the actual return on investment hasn't been as good this year as it was last year.
I mean, yeah, there was a few fights that failed to deliver. Like
Yeah,
White Fury failed to deliver. Cambosis failed to deliver.
yeah.
Um,
Also, Shakur and
Valdez failed to
Valdez.
deliver.
Yeah. So, and which is not Shakur's fault, but um, yeah,
Canelo failed to deliver.
yeah. So this fight could potentially be a fight of the year, Toshi, like for sure. Big Fish Davidian, what's going on, my good brother? He said, "Hey, my boxing brothers, I'm rocking with the common man, Joe Smith, even though the Russian is a machine." Bro, I want to see Joe Smith win because I know he's from New York, but he reminds me so much of a Philly dude, man. Just hard hat, hard working dude, man. He just bring the hard hat lunch pill and he just get to work.
For me, I want to see. I love Joe Smith. He even follows me on Instagram. So shout out to Joe Smith. I'm not gonna say I want to see Joe Smith win or lose. I'm not gonna say that. What I want to say is, to me, outside of those dudes, you got Bivol. And I just want to see a Beterbiev versus Bivol fight. I've seen Joe Smith versus Bivol, and I feel like he's done enough to earn the right to get a rematch. The Blasov win, the Alida
Yeah.
Alvarez win, the Jesse Hart win. And if he does beat Beterbiev, he
That's
100,
actually, when
he
you think
deserves
about
it.
it, that's a hell of a run.
Facts.
That's a
And
hell of a run.
when you think about the fact that he done all three of those in the same, like within, I think with his, it was supposed to be within the same year, but then the Vlasov fight got pushed back.
Yeah.
But it was within like 15 months.
Between
That
15, 16 months. Yeah.
yeah, that's a hell of a run.
Yeah. So he's on a nice ass run right now. T Finney. I just read Berlanga got fined for the bite and can't return until December. So with that, T Finney, I did hear that he was going to get fined. I don't pay suspensions any mind in boxing because guys are going 4 or 6 months without a fight anyway. So if they be
I was
like,
about to
"Yo,
say that.
you
I was
suspended
about
for
to say
6
that.
months,"
He will
he
be
was
ready
going
to
to
get in a fight in
like
those 6 months anyway.
don't tell me Don't tell me I'm suspended from work for a week when I already put my vacation days in. That's all. That's all that means to me. You know what I'm saying?
Fact.
So, Berlanga, he probably. I mean, it's June. Was that July, August, September, October, November, December? If he can't come back until December, I mean that's 6 months. And to be honest with you, he probably the earliest he probably would have came back is probably September, October. So it ain't that big of a difference, in terms of um when he would have returned. But to be honest with you, he needed to take a couple months anyway. I think he needs to take a couple months just to get in the lab and really work on some things. And I think they need to be a lot more strategic in terms of who they put him in the ring against. But yeah, we just showed you Beterbiev and Callum Johnson, and we showed what happens when you come into the ring against Beterbiev. You draw the line in the sand, but you're not responsible with what you're doing inside of the ring. Like he just got a little too
Reckless.
confident, a little too reckless. And what happens is when you're doing that against a guy like that, you're eventually going to pay the price. But Beterbiev reminds me a lot of like Prime Kovalev. Prime Kovalev had the boxing, he had the boxing ability, and on top of that, you couldn't just do whatever you wanted to Kovalev. He was
In
going to
fact,
make you pay.
the difference with Kovalev though, I feel like Kovalev at times also fought very comfortable as well. Like he also made it quite comfortable for his opponents by sometimes taking moments in the rounds off. He never really made an opponent work when he wanted to rest. And I look back at the Bernard Hopkins fight, and I really feel like that was the first time I saw a real weakness in Kovalev. Well, obviously, didn't he fight? What's that dude's name? Was it Sakio Bika? Did he fight Sakio Bika?
Yeah, he fought Saki Opika.
In that fight, I saw it as well, but not so much. It was really the Bernard Hopkins fight. I really started to see weaknesses in Kovalev.
Yeah, Kovalev, and then we talking like when I say prime Kovalev, I'm talking when HBO was trying to get him and Adonis Stevenson to fight. Like that
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
prime Kovalev, and prime Kovalev always gave you something to think about with that jab. He had
mm-hmm.
one of the best power jabs in the sport. And to be honest with you, he didn't even need the side to side movement because his judging the distance
Was,
straight
was
away, like straight ahead, was next level. Like he could touch you, and he was just far enough out for you to, if you trying to reach him, you're leaving yourself open for something
very, very,
nasty.
very similar to what you see Errol Spence do right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. I actually want to
I always thought Gennady Golovkin was like a poor man's Kovalev. I've always thought that.
who?
Gennady Golovkin.
Oh, Triple G, yeah. So those dudes have the same to be honest with you, they all have that same um makeup in terms of inside the ring. Like they're all power guys that have some technical ability. They're
The
not super
Soviet style.
athletic either.
That Soviet style. That's what they call it. The Russian style. Those,
Mm-hmm.
the Klitschko brothers had the same thing. Not
Yeah,
super
like
athletic, but they had power and technique. You know.
yeah, power and technique 9 times out of 10 going to take you where you need to be. Because a lot of time, because that carries with you late in your career, even when you physically start to deteriorate a little bit. When you had that technique, that's going to carry you through. To be honest with you, I'm like, that's why Kovalev's still fighting right now. That's why he was pretty much about even with Canelo, and a lot of people don't
The, the,
give Kovalev credit for that.
that's why, like, you, you almost have to look at Emmanuel Stewart again and how he almost revolutionized the way Eastern Europeans fought.
Yeah,
Obviously being Klitschko, working with Klitschko,
Lennox.
and then Lennox. But Lennox isn't really Eastern European. But when he worked with Klitschko in the Klitschko camp, and then obviously having Jonathan Banks work with Klitschko, and Jonathan Banks ended up working with Gennady Golovkin, and you could just see how the Eastern European fighters then started to adopt a much more Western style of fighting. Hence the reason why you got the Lomachenkos, the Bivos, the Usyks, the Voldziks. Voldzik ended up being trained by Teddy Atlas and a Western trainer. I know Usyk and Loma, they have, what's it called? They have Lomachenko's father, but their style's very Western. Their style's
Yeah.
Western. Gennady Golovkin, but he had Abel Sanchez, but then he moved to Jonathan Banks, a Western trainer again, and Abel Sanchez being Mexican, another Western dude. My my theory behind this is when Emmanuel Stewart was introduced to the Ukrainian and Eastern European style of fighting, and when he had to put his stamp on things, I felt like a lot of coaches learned, because it's no surprise that after Klitschko retired, you see a gauntlet of Ukrainian fighters come out of that country, and their style was so much more Western. It's so much more athletic, fast feet, fast hands, bounce on your toes. You rarely saw that in the 90s and early 2000s with Eastern European fighters.
Right.
The likes of Kovalev at the time, the Klitschko brothers. You rarely saw that in the early 2000s. And now
Yeah.
you're starting to see. And I'm just wondering whether that's because of Emmanuel Stewart and Emmanuel Stewart
I
having his effect on Eastern European fighting.
yeah, I think I mean you can definitely say that Emmanuel Stewart is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of trainers like all
Fact,
time.
fact.
He's
I
definitely
mean,
top four in my opinion.
he's the greatest trainer of all time to
Yeah,
me. To me.
he's because he's and how I can say that with confidence is that Emmanuel Stewart has put his imprint on so many guys in so many different weight classes, and I mean we
Different
talking from
styles.
welterweight all the way up to heavyweight. He's put his stamp
Uh, uh,
on a lot of
and
dudes.
there's one thing where you're establishing an identity, but there's another thing where you take a dude who doesn't have the ability to fight your style, and you come up with a game plan to formulate a way to beat an opponent. So I'll give you an example. Emmanuel Stewart was Evander Holyfield's trainer for the second Riddick Bowe fight, if I'm correct. No, he was
Mhm.
he was definitely for the second Riddick Bowe fight. I don't know if he was for the first Riddick Bowe fight, but he was definitely the trainer for the second Riddick Bowe fight. And you could look at the style. I mean, Evander Holyfield isn't a natural crunk fighter. He doesn't have long limbs. He's not tall. He's not an outside fighter. He fights behind the jab, but he's not a Tommy Hearns. He's not a Lennox Lewis. He's not a Klitschko. He's not got that um the aesthetics. His biomechanics doesn't work the same as those other fighters. But it doesn't matter, because when you got a great coach, you can formulate a game plan no matter who the fighter is. And this is what I was talking about Derek James a couple shows ago, when I was saying Derek James has shown great ability with great fighters with similar attributes. So therefore he's able to implement his style, but how transferable is that style? That's my point. You know, both Errol Spence and Jamal Charlo have great chins. They both got very, very good dimensions for their weight class. I think they both got arguably top 10 percentage for their weight class in terms of reach and in terms of height. They're both very tall for the weight class, both very long and dangly for the weight class. They're also both physically bigger than what their weight class is supposed to be at. I think Errol Spence is naturally bigger than a 147, and Jamal Charlo is naturally, he could be fighting at 160. Those are two dudes who have very similar attributes, and there's no surprise that they have a coach that is able to implement that style. Now, if you had a dude who doesn't have those attributes, how good is Derek James?
Yeah, and the thing about that is with Emmanuel Stewart, the one thing that he had to his advantage is the gym. The crunk gym, and you seen and back during those times, you actually seen more guys actually training out of the same gym. it wasn't as many gyms, as it is now. So, but to be honest with you, like you take like Bosey's gym in terms of the setup, gives a crunk gym type feel in terms of a lot of different guys, a lot of different weight classes, a whole lot of talent is all in one spot, and everybody's working, and that's what you're seeing in the Crunk gym. So because of that gym, Emmanuel Stewart had the opportunity to actually work with a lot of different guys. Where
I,
now it's harder to get a lot of guys all in one
I,
place.
I'm worried. I'm not worried. Why did I say worried? I'm wanting to go to that Detroit gym. I've been to probably most of the great fight cities in that. Like I've been to, well, in the UK, I've been to all the great gyms in the UK. Every gym that's got a certain status, I've been there in the UK. And then I went to Philly, which to me, obviously, that had to be the first place I went when I was going to America.
Yeah,
Philadelphia being a fight city. I think the only three places left is Texas, Detroit, and Vegas. I mean, obviously, if I go to Vegas, Padman's out in Vegas, but I really want to go to Detroit. I really want to go to see how that Crunk gym is, just for my own personal archive.
yeah. And that's the thing. Like and it's so hard to really judge like the trainers, not to really get too much off topic, but like just the trainers. It's just each great trainer, like you can really create your own categories and how you actually define their greatness. Some trainers, you define their greatness over a finished product of one or two guys. You got some trainers, you stamp their greatness by how many fighters they've actually changed for the better. You have other trainers that can adapt to pretty much any style. So
Mm-hmm.
it's really hard to say that there's one set criteria to define whether a trainer is actually great or not. Like you could take like an Emmanuel Stewart, and the reason why he's great is completely different than the reason why brother Nazim Richardson is great. You know what I'm saying? Or you take like a Teddy Atlas, and there's reasons why he's great, but then you take a young impressive guy like a Coach Rell, and there's reasons why he's a great trainer. You know what I'm saying? So all the way around, everybody has their own reasons of why they're great, and it's hard to evaluate a trainer versus evaluating a fight. It's actually easier to evaluate a fighter versus an
Yeah,
actual
not
trainer.
easily, but yeah,
It's
that's a fact.
easier.
That's a
It's
fact. I
easier.
wanna, I wanna read this question.
Hmm.
Heavy Bag, aka Heavy. Shout out to you, bro. Salute Goodfella podcast. Do you guys think that Derek James is an all-time great by having a three belt unified champion and the first four belt 154 champion in history? Personally, no. I don't think he's an all-time great trainer. I think he's a top coach for this time and this era, but to me, he hasn't done enough. As I was saying earlier, I don't think you heard when I said when you look at Derek James, he's an elite trainer. He's done an amazing job with two great fighters. Jamal Charlo is a great fighter. Errol Spence is a great fighter.
He
You know,
followed
when
up.
he
He
said,
he followed up on that.
do you think James needs more champions on his resume for all-time great? He don't. It's not even necessarily champions. I just need to see him in enough scenarios. So to me, I want to see him work with a dude who doesn't have the same attributes that uh Errol Spence and Jamel Charlo has, just to see how transferable his skills are. Because right now he's teaching a style that's conducive to two individuals who have very similar attributes, in the sense that the style can easily be implemented into those two dudes' um, game plan, as aesthetically and biomechanically they're both capable of doing it. I want to see this dude work with a dude like um a dude who's small for the weight class. Maybe work with a heavyweight, or work with to me, like an all-time great trainer, for example, is a Teddy Atlas. I've seen Teddy Atlas in numerous scenarios. Whether it's with Bradley, whether it's with Povetkin, whether it's with Voldzik, I mean, I could keep going on this, whether it's I don't even need to, whether it's with more or I could keep going. You know, I've seen this dude work with different styles and implement his style and work on the attributes of different fighters. Plus his level of in-game adjustment, in-game understanding. That's an all-time great trainer. I don't think Teddy Atlas has the same accolades as Derek James does, because I don't think he has an undisputed champion. But it doesn't make a difference, because I've seen enough from this individual to show me that he's an all-time great champion. And the reason why heavy bag you need to not always look at the accolades is because we can look at someone like Ben Davison. You know, Ben Davison, who has an undisputed champion in Josh Taylor. He had the champion in a unified champion in Tyson Fury. You know, and to me, he's not a top coach. He just worked with top fighters. You know, there's a difference between being a top coach and a fighter who's worked with a trainer who's worked with top fighters. You know, and that's my point. How do
Let
you
me
feel about
let me get
go
the
on?
yeah, let me get that one. He said, how do you feel about Derek attempting to make Marcus Brown a champion?
If he was able to do that, that would impress me.
Well, see, here's the thing. So, um, with Marcus Brown, right? This is how I evaluate how far a fighter can go. So this will lead to your question. So you take a Marcus Brown, for example, and you ask yourself, is Marcus Brown the type of talent you could just throw him up against anybody and he's going to be okay? The answer to that is obviously no.
No.
So you have to be strategic in terms of who he actually gets in the ring against. Now, there for Marcus Brown to be fighting at 175, right? He would have a lot better of a chance against a Joe Smith than he would have a Beterbiev, because he would have been able to actually do more things that he's capable of doing in terms of his physical attributes, his movement, things like that. He would have had a better chance. Now it's easy to say, like, it's no way in hell Marcus Brown to do anything at 175. If he's moved strategically, again, quote, strategically, and he gets one of the weaker champions at 175, possibly. But after that beating he took against Beterbiev, I don't think he's going to be the same fighter
I,
like here.
I, I don't necessarily need to see. But to answer your question, heavy, I don't need to see Marcus Brown win a world title for me to give Derek James credit for improving him. If I can see clear improvement where you're actually working on this dude and you found ways to improve this dude's skill and complement the attributes that he has and mold it into what you're trying to teach, that's credit to you. You know, that's credit to you. You know, he doesn't even need to become a world champion after that. You know, uh, I remember when uh, Dylan White was with Mark Tibbs, and Dylan White was with Mark Tibbs. He never even had a world title fight with Mark Tibbs. But I think the 9 fights they were together, he won all 9 fights. He was undefeated with Mark Tibbs. And I think even in the time that he was working with Mark Tibbs, his knockout ratio increased working under Mark Tibbs. And then as soon as he left Mark Tibbs, the fight after he left, he got knocked out by Povetkin. And then he ended up losing to Tyson Fury without Mark Tibbs again. So I don't necessarily need to see you win a world title to see improvement in you. That's my point. Like, if I can genuinely see improvement in a fighter, sometimes a coach can only do so much. You know, I just want to know if you can give me enough improvement with this trainer, and then I give you credit. You know, that's why I always talk about Buddy McGirt, because I see Buddy McGirt do short-term fixes. Sometimes in boxing, you got to patch a tire. You can't change the tire. You know, sometimes you just got to patch it, and that's what I want to see. See if uh Derek James can do.
Yeah, yeah, it's real curious to see what Derek James does going forward. Because to be honest with you, if Spence beats Crawford, to be honest with you, he could ride off into the sunset, and you couldn't even really make too much of a debate, really, just off of the accolades
I
alone.
could, I could, I definitely.
You would be in a minority though.
Because accolades don't mean nothing to me from a coach's perspective.
Yeah, but you would still be in a minority though.
I
Because
don't,
he
I'm
put
in the
his
minority right
I
now.
put it to you, I put it to you like this. Like Derrick James definitely plays a part, and you can see he plays more of a part in Jamel's development more so than Spence's
But he's
development.
supposed to because he's a great coach.
Yeah, but he's been with Spence his whole career though. That's the difference.
But he's
That's the
supposed.
difference.
But this is the thing. He's supposed to because he's a great coach.
But the
I'm
thing
not
is,
saying he's not a
that's what I'm
great coach.
saying though. Like, but that's what I'm saying though. Like, you have to, when you're dealing with a great fighter and a great coach, it's always going to be debate on, who had more of the effect. It's no different than like in football, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. They won Super Bowl after Super Bowl together, and it's still a debate on who affected whose
But
career more.
but then this is the difference. When you're looking at all-time great, the reason why I feel like accolades, this is an individual sport, bro. This is an individual sport. It doesn't matter what Floyd Mayweather achieved, bro. It doesn't matter what Floyd Mayweather achieved. It didn't make Roger Mayweather an all-time great coach. Nobody looks at Roger Mayweather and say he's an all-time great trainer of all time. Nobody says that. Or
But they'll
Floyd
say Senior
even.
is though.
I wouldn't. I want to know. I wouldn't. I wouldn't say that.
But you gotta separate. You gotta separate your opinion to what the general public is
But you,
thinking.
you you said I'm in a minority. I'm already in the minority, bro.
You
I'm
always in the
always
minority,
I'm
bro.
already in the minority. So it's not even about that, bro. Like you could ask me right now, and I'll tell you this right now. If I was to rate who's done more for me to prove as a better coach, um, Derek James or Buddy McGirt, I'll tell you Buddy McGirt. Because I've seen more from him as a coach than I've seen from Derek James. I've
And
seen
see,
two elite fighters with an elite coach. To me, bro, you know what that's like, Jeff? That's like me going into the NBA tomorrow. And no disrespect to Derek James because he's an elite coach. He's elite. But that's like me going into the NBA tomorrow and I'm gonna be Steph Curry's coach for shooting threes. And then I'm
uh,
going to be like, well, Steph Curry's shooting the most threes, so obviously I'm the best coach at coaching threes. This dude just gifted.
well, the thing is, like, so you take that same example. Steph Curry and them essentially had the same team, and they didn't reach the levels that they reached until they actually switched to a certain coach.
No, I'm saying, I said I was very specific when I said I was Steph Curry's specific coach, and my role was to teach this dude free.
Yeah, and that, but see, that's the thing though. Like, I don't look at Charlo as an all time type talent though. Like he's taking really good skills. Like Charlo don't have all time type talent. He just don't. He don't. He's good. Don't get me
Neither
wrong.
does Spence.
Yeah,
Neither
but
does Spence.
yeah, but Spence. So Spence's style. Actually, if you break down Spence for a African American fighter, he fights more so like on like that Triple G type, Kovalev type level where it's everything is short, compact, technical with power. That's Spence. That's Spence in a sense. With Charlo needed a lot more work. So
But
I can actually
but
see.
they both they may not have the elite talent, but they both have elite physicality. When I'm saying that, they both are very, very big for the weight. They're both very tall and with long reach and long arms, and they both got amazing chins. So it's very that a Derek
Because
James style, a Derek James style, based on what I've seen from Derek James, you need to be physically strong and you need to have a good chin.
right, but that's what I'm saying though. Like, so you gotta be you got to be careful with that because I'm like you're kind of walking that line of like, can you slap any coach with Spence and would he would have got to the same place? Can you slap any coach with Charlo? Is he going to get to the same place? My answer would be no. I don't
But then
think you
I'm
can
gonna ask
slap
you a
any coach and
question.
get
I'm
there.
gonna ask you a question. If you gave Derek James Anthony Joshua, does that style work?
No, because he doesn't have a chin for it.
That's my point. So
Yeah,
how how skilled?
but you pick one of the weakest chins you can
No,
find. And
but
give
I
me
done it.
another example
No,
though.
but I done it on purpose. I done
Yeah,
that on purpose. The reason why I done it is because I want to know how transferable you are. Now you're
but
working with a dude who don't have a chin. What are you
but
gonna do as
bro,
a coach?
but as a coach, how many coaches has actually changed somebody with a chin like that though? That
I mean,
never happens. It's
there's
a difference
some.
between coaching and miracles. There's a difference between coaching and miracles.
I get that. 100% get that. But there's also ways in which you can improve a fighter that doesn't have a certain chin. You can
I
improve their defense. You
so
can
I'll
improve
so
their
I'll
distance management. Just
I'll
like with
go.
Amir Khan
I
and
was getting
Amir
ready to say
Khan
that.
and
I was getting
Virgil.
ready to say in Virgil, but the thing is, Virgil did everything you possibly could with Amir Khan, and where did he still end up though?
He ended up as a unified world champion.
Not under Virgil.
Well, under
That's what I'm
Virgil,
saying. Not under Virgil. He
no.
got, but listen, so we seen the improvement. So let's take Amir Khan, right? We seen the improvement,
Mhm.
right? We seen the improvement that Virgil Hunter had on Amir Khan. We seen the improvement because we seen it with our own two eyes, but we still seen moments where it didn't matter what Virgil Hunter did. There was fights where Amir Khan got knocked
But
down. There's a
but
fights where
that's
he got knocked smooth out.
why I said to you, bro, as a fighter, as me as a dude, and I just said I don't need um to see Derek James turn Marcus Brown into a world champion. I just need to see this dude improve him enough to say I can say this dude has transferable skills. That's all I want to see is whether Derek James has transferable
But
skills.
you have to. But accolades does play into that though.
No, it doesn't.
You
No,
no,
it doesn't.
but bro, but the thing is, you're going. So you're going off of accolades. Is when you're evaluating anybody in any sport, accolades does play a part. It does play a part. You can't separate it and say it don't play a part at all. Like it has to be some type of results. Some type of results. It don't have to be world title or anything like that. It has to be some type of
Yeah, no, of
results.
course there has to be results, but it doesn't necessarily mean what I'm saying is it's very simple. Just because you have accolades doesn't necessarily, or you're working with a fighter who has certain achievements, doesn't mean necessarily you have a. Okay, I'll give you an example. Becoming an undisputed champion, that's an all-time great achievement.
Mm-hmm.
It's an all-time great achievement. It's an amazing achievement. It's a once in a lifetime achievement. It's a Hall of Famer level achievement. Just
Mm-hmm.
because you have that in your stable doesn't mean you're a Hall of Famer all-time great trainer. And that's my point.
No,
Don't get
I get what you're
don't get
saying.
an accolade and feel like that automatically gives you a certain status because it doesn't. Because I just told you, Ben Davison is the coach for Josh Taylor. Josh Taylor is the unified champion or undisputed champion. I don't think Josh Taylor is I don't think Ben Davison is an all-time great coach. Neither do I think Bomac is an all-time great coach. Neither do I think Eddie Reynoso is an all-time great coach. Neither do I think, no disrespect to Bill Haney, but I don't think Bill Haney is a great coach, even though he's the
But
head coach for Devin Haney.
I'm gonna say this before we get in the comments because they starting to get a little crazy. You even take a Bomac. You just said Bomac. You don't consider him a great coach. Actually, Bomac did one of the things that you actually look for is take a guy that's not that talented. So Bomac is the example of he's taking two different guys that's not world class level in terms of talent or performance, and he's made both of them world champions, and you still think he's not a great coach.
No, No. I'm lying. I'm absolutely lying. You're 100% right. Bomac, to me, I would quicker give Bomac all-time great before I give Derek James.
And
I'm
see,
being dead
that's
serious.
where, that would turn into a whole debate. But basically, off of your standards, that falls in line with what your thinking is in terms of what you would consider a great coach. So you
This
take
dude,
so for
this
example,
dude
right? Hold
took
on,
Jamel
let me
Herring.
follow
He took
hold on, let me ask you this real quick, bro. So take Derek James, right? Derek James. Spence beats Crawford.
uh-huh.
Some people would say Derek James is at an icon status, right? Check this out. But if Bud beats Spence, convincingly beats Spence, that means Bomac was there when he went unified at 140. He was there when he went unified at 47. He took Jamel
Herring,
Herring, got him to a world title, and
Maurice Hooker.
and got Hooker to a world title. Which now we're talking accolades. We talking accolades and we're talking actual performance. Who would have like who would you hold in a higher regard? Would you hold in a
I
higher
would,
regard
I would,
Bomac or
I would
Derek
hold
James?
Bomac in a higher. I would hold Bomac in a higher regard, and I hold him on a higher regard right now. Is because I don't feel like neither Maurice Hooker or Jamel Herring are good fighters. I feel like they're overachievers, and I felt like they overachieved purely and simply partly because of good coaching, and another part is because of obviously good matchmaking. But I don't look at Errol Spence and Jamel Charlo and go, you don't deserve to be a world champion. I look at both of those dudes and say, you lot are both elite fighters. I look at Maurice Hooker and you did not deserve to be a world champion. Neither did, well, you could argue that maybe Herring did, but Hooker didn't. Hooker definitely didn't,
Yeah.
and that's my point. I can actually see a coach genuinely have an impact in a fighter's career. I'm not saying Derek James didn't have an impact, because obviously he did, but he had an impact in an elite level fighter's career. I mean, that's very easy to have.
So let's get in these comments real quick. Heavy Bag said, okay, that's a good way of looking at it. Just one more question about Derek. What's your feeling on Derek working with Frank Martin? That I let me get that one. So if Derek James takes Frank Martin and takes him to where he needs to be, I guarantee you Shane is going to be very consistent in what he's saying. If Frank Martin gets to where he needs to be, and Derek James is a big part of that, Shane to jump back on camera and be like, "Hey, that's what I'm talking about."
That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see. I always talk about fight. I always talk about uh a Manny Stewart as the pinnacle, and that's the standard that I'm expecting dudes to hit. Crawford beats Spence. Spence will be taken off the pound for pound list this year. I don't know about that, but fair enough. Salute all here listening. Joe Smith is no joke. Yeah, that's true. I think he is a honourable mention just off the fashion. Errol Spence became unified and Jamel became undisputed. They both got their belts from the top 5 in their division.
Bro,
Um,
hold on, Shane, real quick. I had a fuse blow in the crib, so my Wi-Fi is gonna cut off and come back on. Just keep cooking. It'll come right back.
it's cool. It's cool. Now this is where me and you may be a potentially disagreeing, because I'm not 100% sure that um I mean, I love Errol Spence. Errol Spence is a top fighter, but to say Errol Spence, I mean, I mean, you can say that because obviously Ugas was a top 5 fighter at the time. And Sean Porter was a top 5 fighter at the time as well. So credit to him for that. But again, they're still working with the same fighter. I don't know, man. I'm not gonna give this. I'll give him credit, but to be an all-time great, you have to do more than that for me. Facts, Jeff. Shane, stop, my brother. I don't know, man. I have very high standards for coaches. Charlo also knocked out every champion to become undisputed. Undisputed. No credit. That is credit. That is credit. Charlo done an amazing job, but I mean, I couldn't give this dude any more praise. I mean, again, I said it earlier this live. He is my fighter of the year so far. You know, his performance against Castano was terrific. Credit for that. But again, I am just saying, when it comes to Derek James, he's a great coach, and for the time that we are in right now, when you compare him to the other coaches, he's definitely up there as one of the best, but there's a lot more he has to prove to me. What's good? Shout out to L Dub. Shane sounds like a hater. I can't hate on someone that I respect. I respect. I've said it numerous times. I think he's a top fighter and top trainer. What's good, Brody? I respect Shane's qualifications for all. I respect Shane's qualifications for all-time great champions. But Derek James will make the Hall of Fame for sure. I feel all-time great Hall of Fame and Hall of Fame should be separated. Again, I mean, he could make the Hall of Fame. I mean, it is what it is, I guess. But on what he's done so far, I just think he's got great accomplishments. But he hasn't proved to me that he's shown an all-time great performance as a coach. I haven't seen that yet. When Errol Spence Jr. and Derek James become undisputed, talk to me, Shane. Again, if Errol Spence becomes undisputed, I'll be saying the same thing. I'll be saying the exact same thing. Like, to me, and I'm just being honest, haven't seen Derek James has shown me that he turned two great fighters into unified and undisputed champion. That is a great accomplishment. But there's so many things I want to see for you to be like. For one, I want to see how transferable your fight style is. Can this fighting style work with? Can you work with a smaller dude? Can you work with a big dude? Can you work with a dude who don't have punch power? Can you work with a dude that potentially doesn't have great defense? Can you work with a dude that potentially doesn't have? I want to see a certain level of skill from a coach. Can you come in to a fight and fix a problem? So you might not have much experience with a fighter, but he hires you in a one fight or two fight, and I need you to fix the fight straight away. So kind of like what Kovalev, not what Anthony Joshua is doing with Robert Garcia. He needs to win a fight. He needs a coach. I need to find someone who can win me this next fight. Or like when Kovalev was gonna fight rematch Alida Alvarez, he brought in Buddy McGirt. I want to know if you can you can come into a camp and instantly make a difference. There's a different criteria that I haven't seen from Derek James, that I've seen from other coaches. So that's why I'm a bit up in the air. And just becoming undisputed doesn't mean a lot to me, because I've just told you the last the last 3 or 4 fighters who've become undisputed, their coaches weren't undisputed. I didn't think Bill Haney's are undisputed. What did I just say? Their coaches wasn't great coaches. That's what I meant to say. So the last few fighters that became undisputed, their coaches wasn't great coaches. I don't think Bill Haney was a great coach or an all-time great coach. I don't think Ben Davison is an all-time great coach. I don't think Eddie Reynoso is an all-time great coach. Just because your fighters become undisputed don't mean you're all of a sudden a great coach. And I'm not saying Derek James isn't a great coach. I'm just saying that he's got a lot more to prove. So you refuse to give Derek James a great coach. Give Derek James a great coach when he turned a boxer in Jamel Charlo and showed him how to use his knockout power. I didn't say he's not a great coach. I just said he's not an all-time great coach. He's got a lot more to show for me. Brian Bomack doing a good job. He's a good coach. I think Bomack's a good coach. I still don't think he's a Hall of Famer coach neither. It's people that's in the Hall of Fame that should be there. Who's that? That's Jeff. He carried a lot of good fighters. um both Bomac and Coach James failed with Rob Brown. You can fail with fighters, that don't mean nothing. Failing with a fighter don't mean nothing. And there's most dudes fail with fighters. But it's just, have you shown me enough in your arsenal? Let me keep going. Maurice Hooker was a world champion before he was with Bomac. Again, that's something that's very good to know, because now I know that. That proves even more my point that Bomac. Again, I don't think Bomac is a great coach. But before I give James that credit, I'll more likely give it to Bomac, because I've seen him work with more failed fighters. But LW boxing, a lot of coaches fail good fighters. Of course they do. Stay ready, like who? What do you mean, like who? To me, what's it called? Off the dome, I can tell you that I've seen Abel Sanchez fail great. I've seen Abel Sanchez fail fighters. I've seen Eddie Reynoso fail fighters. I've seen what's it called? I even seen, what's it called? Let's go back in time. I've seen Eddie Futch fail his fighters. You know, I've seen Freddie Roach fail fighters. I've seen I don't want to say Teddy Atlas failed a fighter, but he never necessarily. Even Emmanuel Stewart has failed fighters before, you know. So most great coaches will fail at some point with their fighter. So what do you think about Ronnie Shields? I think Ronnie Shields is a good coach. That's where I think he's a good coach. Derek James did it with two different weight classes and two different fighters. Okay, but so did Ben Davison. So what are you saying? So did Ben Davison. I mean, this is my point. Jeff, do you see where I'm going with this? You see
I
where I'm
see.
saying?
I done missed a lot.
But no, where he says he done it with two different weight classes with two different fighters. So did Ben Davison. So what? But I don't think Ben Davison's a good coach. He's just had
Uh,
great fighters. That's my
so
point.
yeah, so it's like, but see, that's why I said it's so difficult to each trainer. You have to create their own lane in terms of how you evaluate them. Like the way I evaluate Virtual Hunter is not the same way I would evaluate like a Derek James. You know what I'm saying? Like I evaluate Brother Nazim, different than I would a Teddy Atlas. Like it's
No,
just
no, that's a bad example. That's a
no,
bad
I
example.
no
Ted
with the
Atlas
thing.
and Nassim are very similar. They're very high
Well,
IQ coaches, and they run a
but
corner very well.
Teddy, if you notice, the reason I said them two, you hear not Brother Nazim's intellect more in fight. You hear Teddy Atlas's
But you
intellect
hit,
more in camp.
I mean,
You hear it more in camp. So when you see Teddy Atlas behind the
Teddy
scenes,
Atlas is
you
more
see that.
in the corner. He's more talking about the mental. You know.
Yeah, he's talking about, but see, that's why I compared, that's why I said them two. That's why I said I don't evaluate them two the same.
Yeah.
Teddy Atlas is gonna get you, he's gonna get you in terms of emotionally ready,
Yeah.
motivated, and then
I mean,
he sprinkles in that intellect. He sprinkles in that intellect.
in terms of just game plan, I mean, there's nobody better than Brother Nassim Richardson in a corner. There's no man that's ever been made. I don't care whether it's 1900s, 1800s, 2000s. This dude in corner is the greatest. He's the greatest man that run in a corner, bro. Greatest. He's the
Yeah.
greatest. Brother Nassim Richardson.
Hold on. Stay ready. Ronnie Shields have had fighters that didn't make it like that. That's good fighters. Eddie Reynoso, Luis Neri, Robert Garcia, Phil
Robert,
fighters.
exactly.
Let's talk about Freddie Roach. So stay ready. Let me say this. It ain't no trainer that's gonna, no trainer's batting 1,000. Like
No
nobody's
pain.
batting 1,000.
I
What
mean,
I would do.
look at what's it called, Dominic Brazil, and didn't he have Virgil
And
Hunter?
Virgil Hunter, yeah, like so I'm like not every match is gonna not every team is gonna, mesh well. You know what I'm saying? Even when you got, the NBA, when they put the dream team together, if they not meshing well as a team, like, you got, other countries is coming in, they beating our guys. You know what I mean? Heavy bag. He said, Shane, I like your knowledge of boxing. Do you have an IG?
Yeah.
Yeah, he
I
does.
underscore I'm Shane, the number one.
See, I'm on point. I'm on point, man. I underscore am Shane, the number one, exclusively on Instagram. Go following, go following. So let me get
Sento's
to
boxing.
Sento's boxing. Big shout out to you. He said, what up, G5? Salute. Big shout out to you. My man L Dub in the building. He said Eddie Ray Nelson didn't lose with Neri.
No, but guess who he did lose? He lost with Oscar Valdez and he lost with Canelo.
Stay ready. Neri Pop Dirty. That's why I mentioned him. Fair enough. Fair
I
enough.
mean that Reynoso pack.
That Reynoso pack. Yeah. Dub box L Dub boxing. Rios tested positive. You didn't mention him.
I mean, I don't know who was he referencing when he said that.
I wonder if is he talking to Stay Ready?
I'm assuming so.
Okay. Andre Southgate for sure. There was only so much a coach can do in terms of results. Bo Mack is doing a good job. I think I don't
He's
think
doing a good job. I'm not saying he's not doing a good job at all.
It's just like, so I guess where I was going with that, I'm like, if Crawford beats Spence, Bo Mack has taken one fighter to undisputed in two different weight classes. So my question is can you hold Bo Mack in the same regard as you do a Derrick James if Spence beats Crawford? So that's my question to people.
It's to me, again, I feel like, I know you're not doing it, Jeff, but I feel like people are allowing this narrative of, because my fighter beat your fighter, I'm a better trainer than you. And that's not boxing. That is not boxing at all. Just, I don't care what anyone says. Brother Nassim Richardson's a better coach than Floyd Mayweather Senior. I don't care what anyone wants to say to me. Brother Nassim Richardson is better than Floyd Mayweather Senior. Shane Mosley still lost to Floyd Mayweather. It doesn't make a difference. It doesn't make a difference. If my fighter is better than your fighter, it doesn't matter if I'm a better coach than you. Well, it does matter, but it matters only to a certain degree. And I feel like some people are going to allow the fact that, well, if Errol Spence beats Terence Crawford, therefore Derrick James is a better coach than Bo Mack. Or if Terence Crawford beats Errol Spence, Bo Mack is a better coach than Derrick James. That's not boxing to me. That's not boxing to me. Because just because one dude beats another, I mean, that's not boxing to me. I mean, I'll give you another thing. Everybody in this chat speaking about names, and Heavy Bag, I got a question for you. What has Derrick James done that Lomachenko Sr. hasn't done?
Speak on that a little bit more for the people that don't know.
Because you just said that Derrick James has made one dude undisputed and one dude unified. Well, Lomachenko's made two dudes unified at multiple weight classes and one dude undisputed. But you didn't mention Lomachenko's father as an all-time great coach. You mentioned Derrick James as an all-time great coach. So now you're getting one person's accolades high up here, but another person's accolade ain't up there. Do you see my point where you're getting accolades confused with ability? Accolades and ability is two different things.
And Lomachenko's dad doesn't get mentioned at all.
Ever. And he manages Usyk and Lomachenko. He coaches Usyk and Lomachenko.
And the reason why people will say, "Oh well, Lomachenko's dad doesn't get mentioned at all," is because Lomachenko and Usyk is like can't miss. And I'm like, I don't believe, but I'm like, but I don't, yeah, but I'm like, I don't believe that though. I don't believe that. I don't believe that you can slap any coach with Lomachenko when he does what he does. I don't believe you can slap.
Sorry, Jeff. So I'm so sorry to cut you off. What's more impressive? Lomachenko was a natural featherweight. Usyk started his career at 200 pounds. So therefore, he's working with a featherweight and a heavyweight. Errol Spence, a natural 147. Charlo's a natural 154. They're basically the exact same weight, 7 pounds difference. You are working with two completely different weight classes. To me, nobody ever mentions Lomachenko's father.
And
Nobody ever does.
and the thing is, like, I would look at it more so like Lomachenko's dad has to be added to the equation.
Has to be.
I wouldn't necessarily take Derek James away, or I wouldn't take Bomac away. I would just add Lomachenko's
No,
dad
no,
into the mix.
I, I'm not saying to take anyone away, but do you see how
Yeah,
people
that's
get
yeah, I know. I
one
know.
person's accolades confused, and then I just throw another person in the mix, and all of a sudden the goalpost has to move again.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
it's
saying.
more than yeah, it's more than one element to evaluate a great coach. You know what I mean? You got it, Shane.
I did mention Rover Garcia.
Right,
That was
he must have been Robert Garcia.
Robert Garcia. That was Brandon Rios' coach, and that's exactly 5 hours thinking of. Fair enough. Stay ready. Rios hasn't fought in 4 years. Garcia failed guys between that time. Of course,
Right.
Garcia failed his brother. What do you mean? Garcia failed Mikey. He failed Mikey in the Martin fight. Stay ready. Neri tested positive before he got to Reynoso. I
Yeah, I
think he
think he
did.
did. I
Yeah, I
think he
think he did.
did. Yeah, I
I
think he
think he
did.
did.
I think he did. Yeah, I think he did. That's yeah.
Tested
I think
positive, if I'm
yeah, he
correct.
did. He did.
Was that at 118? He tested positive at 118.
Yeah,
Saying, do you
yeah.
think Derek James unifying and making undisputed champion was easy because he had two gifted fighters? Is that the reason you think he needs to do more? I think he needs to do more because he's working with two gifted fighters. I don't think it's easy because he's a top coach and it takes a top coach to do it. But he needs to do more because the whole point was you said is he an all-time great coach. There's a difference. He needs to do more to become an all-time great coach for me. You can't work with two elite fighters and then all of a sudden be an
Well,
all-time great coach for me.
let me add on to that as far as Derek James is concerned. So Derek James, right? He is he has obviously Spence, he obviously has Charlo. So he has he got like Frank Martin. I'm pretty sure he has other guys in the gym. So I look at Derek James and I'm like, okay, he doesn't have a wide stable of fighters. I'm like, what can I look at from Derek James that'll make me believe that he's like next level outside of the belt accomplishments of
Yeah,
Spence and
yeah, yeah,
Charlo.
yeah.
So this is what for me this is a few things that Derek James has done specifically with Charlo
Carlo.
that leads me to believe that I feel like he can do the things that Shane would like to see from him. So I'll give you an example. You take
The rematch with
you take
Castano.
Tony Harrison. You take Tony Harrison and you can kind of define a lot of coaches, the great ones, you're not gonna get to them twice. You're not gonna get to them twice. With Derek James, right? So you take the Charlo and the Tony Harrison fight. He took that fight. A lot of people felt like Charlo won. Tony Harrison got the decision. There were certain things that had to be done by Charlo in order for him to win the rematch. Derek
Mhm.
James did make sure that those things happened in order for him to get
Same
the
thing
win in
with
that rematch.
Castano.
Same
Same
thing
thing
with
with
Castano.
Castano.
So even though he doesn't have the wide variety of fighters,
He's
Derek
shown
James
that he
has
can
put
make
yeah,
adjustments.
he's shown situations where he can actually take guys and make the proper adjustments and
His
the things that he
in-game
needs to do.
instructions is also good
I
as well.
I think Derek James is next level for more so for those reasons
I
than the
mean,
accolades.
if you look at the 12th round of the Castano fight, the first one, he tells Charlo that he's losing, just so he
Mhm.
goes out there and wins that final round. You know, um, if you listen to what Reynoso said to Canelo in that last round, you can clearly tell that there's a difference in quality of coaching. You know, But that's why I say Derek James is a top coach. He's an elite coach. But
Yeah, he's
again,
Derek James is next level. Like he's next
he's
level with it.
shown me that he can make adjustments. He's a
I,
top coach. He's just, to
so
me, I want to see more. I'm not
it,
gonna go
I,
against what I'm saying. I want to see
yeah,
more.
I mean some of the questions that Shane have, I don't know if we ever gonna get the answer to that. I don't know,
And
but
it's 100% fine if we don't. It's
yeah,
100% fine if we don't. Because why should Derek James care about me? I'm not I'm not gonna be the one inducting him
yeah, I
into the
mean,
Hall of Fame.
understood. I
He,
mean, he's if Spence, like, listen, if Spence wins this fight, I mean, stamp him. He's going to the Hall of Fame, like stamping. You know
exactly,
what I'm
that's my
saying?
point.
Stamping.
That it
Like,
doesn't make a difference what
but the
what
thing
I say.
is, but you can make, but for the people, what I need people to understand is if you think that Derrick James is all time great, if Spence beats Crawford based off of your criteria, you have to put Bomac in the same air if Crawford beats Spence. Because even though he took two different, so he literally took the same. Actually, to be honest with you, you can make the argument that if Crawford beats Spence, what Bomac has done with Crawford is just as difficult as what Derrick James has done with two different fighters. So not
But
only do you have to hold on, let me finish. You take, first of all, you got to get the opportunities to go through the gauntlet. That's at 140. So he wiped out 140. He wiped out 140. If he beats Spence outside of maybe Boots, it's pretty much a wipeout. It's a wipeout. So you can literally look at it and be like, yo, Bo Mack has led Terrence Crawford to undisputeds in back-to-back weight classes and damn near cleaned them out. That's just as good as if Derrick James has Spence undisputed and Charlo undisputed. It's
yeah,
just as difficult. It's just as difficult.
I just don't. And I'm just gonna keep it all the way 100. I always bring up the same example. Floyd Mayweather. He had a. I mean, let's look at Roy Jones Jr. Who was Roy Jones Jr.'s coach?
Nobody mentions him.
That's my point. That's my point. I don't want to hear people say because one dude accomplished something or because the dude accomplished something that all of a sudden this dude's a great coach. That's all. No, it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant. It's not irrelevant in the sense that what you've accomplished is irrelevant. It just doesn't automatically give you the status of being a great coach.
Heavy said, okay, I did not know that. I get your point. That was good. Andre Southgate. That's how it usually works, though. The person that dominated the division, the trainer, going to get the reward is the best trainer. So it's weird. It's
That's
weird,
for
man, because
everyone
it's
else
like,
other than me.
yeah, it's weird, man, because it's like, you got
J-
some
Jeff,
guys.
I want to ask you a question. But let me show you something. Let me show you if you do you not see the hypocrisy? When the Reynoso camp was everybody in that camp was champions and they were winning and all of that stuff. When the Reynoso camp was doing what the Reynosos were doing, who was saying that Reynoso was the trainer of the year on this chat? In the best trainer. Who was saying that to us? Hardly anybody was saying that. But
Right.
people are saying it now because it supports the narrative and the fighter that they like. But when it was Reynoso in the same position as Derek James, everybody was saying it. Everybody is saying it now. But nobody was saying it when it was Reynoso. Because it supports the narrative that people want to push.
Well, I will say this, though. With Derrick James, just as an example, you can literally hear Derrick James putting in work in between rounds. You can literally hear Derrick James putting in work in the gym.
How
When you
many
actually
people have
watch,
said that? How many people have said that in this chat? You said it, and I know where you're coming from. But how many people have said that in this chat?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What are they
Like,
talking about? Nobody. This is the thing. If someone came to me, you've come to me and you've explained why you see Derek James as high as you see him. Cool. What you're saying is from a boxing tip. Every single individual in this chat who's basically pushed Derek James, all they're talking about is accolades. This dude's gonna come undisputed. This dude's a multiple weight world champion or multiple belts or not. So my question is, if you're going by accolades, then therefore you should have had the same level of respect for um Eddie Reynoso. Nobody said anything about what you said. No one said anything about in-game adjustment, camp adjustment, your ring walk, your ring talking, and what you're saying in between rounds. Nobody said that. Only thing people have ever said is he's got Charlo, who's undisputed, and Errol Spence, who's unified. That's all they're talking about is accolades. So let's go back to the Reynoso camp when he had
well,
multiple champions. It's the same thing.
and the thing is, like, and that's something that I mean, the L Dubs and the Stay Readies and heavy bags. That's things that they got. They would have to answer. But for me personally, I'm like, you combine what's been accomplished with the longevity in which, because all it takes is, I'm big on longevity. All it takes is one night. All it takes is one night, one half night, one so night, one bad night, and everything can change. Everything can change. Another reason why I put Derek James in a high space is because you very rarely see, you've almost never seen Spence on an off night. You might see Spence at the worst was the Porter fight, and I just put that to competition. I don't even put that to like Spence wasn't doing this or doing that. That was just Porter was just stepping up to the plate. When this competition, you just gonna have a back and forth like that. Even with Charlo for the most part has been consistent. In the two fights that he wasn't consistent, he came right back and he let you know, like, hey, listen, that first fight, forget about that one. So there's reasons outside of the accolades where I just hold Derek James in that high regard. Now, for other people, if you want to explain why Derek James is in a high regard, if you don't mention anything outside of what Spence has accomplished or what Charlo has accomplished, then you're gonna get pushbacks from the Shanes of the world. You're gonna get pushback from the Shanes of the world. So it's just,
Yeah.
you're gonna get pushback. Like, cause you got to look at it this way. Vladimir Klitschko dominated a heavyweight era. Nobody mentions the coach. You understand what I'm saying? Roy Jones was, I mean, you could make an argument that he was one of the greatest to ever do it, but you never mention the coach. Even you take a James Toney. James Toney has had a bunch of coaches that were quality coaches, but when you think of James Toney, you really don't think of any particular coach. Now you think of Eddie Futch, you think Eddie Futch, but even you don't immediately think of him. Like when you go throughout James Toney's history, you'll think of him. But you take a Lennox Lewis, you automatically think of Manuel Stewart. You understand what I'm saying? You take a let's say a
Andre
Michael
Ward.
Moore, Andre Ward, you automatically think of Virgil Hunter. You know what I'm saying? When you think of Bernard Hopkins, you automatically think of Brother Nazim. And actually, Bernard Hopkins had another coach before Brother Nazim that put in a lot of work with Bernard Hopkins, but you just think of Brother Nazim. So it's just, it's interesting because like not every fighter's success comes, brings the same accolades for a trainer. You take like you said earlier, you take Lomachenko, you take Usyk. Lomachenko's dad doesn't get mentioned at all, but
Oh,
you take a Crawford, you automatically think Bomac.
Bowman.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's just, it's
I just
crazy.
feel
Like
like
you think of
I just
Boots, you think of
feel
Bozy. Like, you know what I mean?
I just feel like some people allow their bias towards a fighter, towards a coach, towards You know, I know Stay Ready knows those dudes. He knows the dudes out of Texas. So I know why he's gonna be saying what he's saying. And cool, you're entitled to your opinion. But just listen to you got if you're gonna say your piece, cool. You just have to respect that I'm not as convinced as you because I'm not affiliated to those dudes. So therefore, the links and the connections that you have, the thing that keeps you affiliated to that individual isn't gonna apply to me. I've never met Errol Spence. I've never met Derek James. I've never met Charlo. So I don't know those dudes. So therefore, I have no reason to be biased towards them. I have no reason to even see things in their favor. They don't do nothing for me other than fight. You might know them personally. So therefore, you might be more inclined to see what they do behind the scenes and respect what they do and give them credit. I don't, because you're just another fighter to me. You mean nothing other than the fight, other than your profession. That's all you are. Just another person doing a profession. And I don't give credit where credit isn't earned. Just because I know you, that don't mean nothing. There's people I know, and I'll tell them to their face, I think they're gonna lose the fight. It don't mean that. It don't mean that. It doesn't mean that I don't respect them as a person. I'm just giving you my opinion.
Yeah, it's always going to be a debate as far as like the trainer, how much credit do they get, how much credit should they get, and you know things of that
It's
nature.
an individual sport. You see my point? So you gotta remember that it's not like you're managing a team, you know, like you're managing an NBA team or an NFL team or whatever, where you're coming up with plays and this person doing that person, you have to manage this person's ego, and that's not necessarily the case in this. You got to
Yeah,
call timeouts and half times and halftime team talks and all of that stuff. You're not doing that in a boxing ring, you know.
yeah. So it's always an interesting debate, you know, when it just come down to the trainers and and things like that, man. And it's so many trainers out there that I think is very good in terms of just dropping knowledge and things like that, but they may not have that one signature guy. They're actually some of my favorite guys to actually listen to in terms of boxing knowledge. The majority of them don't even have a top level guy that will put them in that next air. Like this guy's like Coach Mustafa, that's very good, and he kind of reminds me of Brother Nazim. You take Instagram, the Mad Scientist, he's out of Philly. He works with a lot of different guys. You
One
take
of
a
my
Coach
favorite,
Rel.
one, yeah, Coach was one of my favorites. One of my favorite coaches of all time. One of my favorite coaches of all time is James Ali Bashir.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's so many guys that put their stamp just on boxing, period. But the reason why they don't get the accolades is because they don't have that one guy that's in the national limelight that's getting them the accolades.
And
So
what you also have to understand is, um, sometimes a head coach ain't your day-to-day coach as well. That's what you also need to understand. Like, sometimes a fighter works with the second more than they work with their head coach, you know, and it's the second that is actually the one doing the majority of the work. You know, I can give you numerous occasions where you got the second in command who's actually the real person that's actually doing the physical work. Like, look at Customato. Customato was never on the pads with Mike Tyson. Customato was never running heels with Mike Tyson. Customato was never, you know, doing strength and conditioning with Mike Tyson. He had coaches for that. He was just the brain behind the outfit. You know, he was just the inspiration behind the outfit. You know, the mind behind all of it. You know, and that's another thing that comes into boxing. You know, how much credit do you give the brain, and how much credit do you give the brain?
yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, and it's like I know Blunt not here right now. He probably would have blew a gasket. Like, you know what I'm saying? But it's
But
just
Blunt is just like very. what you will never see from me is a reactionary behavior. I'm not reactionary. So I don't go from pillar to post depending on whether it's raining outside or it's cold or windy. I stand on my square 24 hours a day. A lot of people are very, very, they're fair weather boxing fans. Where if it's raining today, they're on this side of the street. If it's windy today, they're on another side of the street, just reacting to the scenarios. And I'm not a fan like that. You know, just because this dude lost this fight, all of a sudden he's not good anymore, and this fight is all of a sudden the greatest fight of all time. Like, look how people were reacting when Canelo lost to Bivol. Like, Bivol was the next coming of Jesus Christ. I'm like, you guys just didn't watch boxing before. That's just the reason why you were so surprised. And it's just, again, I'm not a reactionary fan, so.
Yeah, it's just, but this is the ongoing things that um you're gonna run into when you're talking about I mean, listen, take Joe Smith's dad. If Joe Smith beats Artur Beterbiev, like, he would have had a 4-fight run that's like here. Like, you know what I mean? But he's not gonna get mentioned though. He's not gonna get mentioned. You know what I'm saying? He's not gonna get mentioned. So like every situation is not the same. Like every situation is not the same. But like you take an Andre Ward, you were committing sin if you mention Andre Ward and you don't mention Virgil Hunter. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you were committing sin, treason. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's just every situation is not the same. I just think as boxing fans, I think as long as we evaluate each situation as its own individual situation, and and really don't try to cross over one logic for one situation and try to take that same logic over to the next one. Everybody has their own, individual situation, and we got to look at it that way. And I mean, Derrick James, um, he, whether he wins or loses with the Spence fight, he still has opportunities to basically improve the resume. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I mean,
Just because you have that that accomplishment doesn't mean you can't improve the resume. So he still will have opportunities to do so.
a lot of imagine if Terence Crawford beat Spence and Charlo. Everybody will just discredit Derrick James. So all of a sudden he's not a good coach anymore. Do you see my point of where the errors are in a lot of people's arguments? All of a sudden he won't be a good coach anymore because he lost. That's how a lot of people will see it, bro. That's how a lot of people will see it.
Yeah, and it's just but it's so many people that think, like, there's a lot of people that think Bomac ain't good. Like, but then you got a lot of people that will say Derrick James is on a whole nother level because of the results of Spence and the results
Bro, I
of
really want to
Charlo.
jump. I'm real tired.
No, we getting ready to jump up off this joint, man. We gonna close this joint out, man. Big shout out to big bro, he ain't in here though. Boxing First Vlog, aka the General, aka Blunt, aka Blunt Bayless, aka Mr. 1K. Big shout out to him. Definitely go follow his YouTube channel. Definitely get this link customized, but that's basically the link right there. Shane, get your social media so we can get up out of here, good brother.
I'm Shane the number one.
Exclusively on Instagram, I_am Shane the number one. And y'all can follow me all over the place, man. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, G5Jeff TV, website G5JeffTV.com. We will be on tomorrow. I'm off tomorrow, so we will be on. And we definitely gonna be chopping it up. Final thoughts and predictions for Beterbiev and Joe Smith. We'll dive into the undercard a little bit more too, and then whatever else boxing news brings us tomorrow, we'll touch on that as well. So on behalf of the very sleepy VP Shane and your boy G5 Jeff TV, man, on behalf of the staff, we'll see y'all tomorrow with episode 104.